And welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professorjrod. All right, following up the last episode, it is Cloud Plus questions. Let's get to it. All right, welcome to Technology Tap. I'm Professor J. Rod. So, last episode, I did an episode on Cloud Plus, asking myself and other people if it's worth it. I actually took the exam in November of last year and I passed. Thank God, barely, but I passed. And then I asked, someone asked me, a viewer, a listener, not a viewer, a listener asked me if I can do Cloud Plus, and so yeah, I did it. So I got a lot of positive response to that. So I'm gonna go over some questions. We have 6 questions that we'll go over today. But before we do that, again, I want to talk to you about Technology Tap Premium. It's a new service that we're offering here at Technology Tap, and what the purpose of it is to, again, bridge this community that we have, bring it closer. Do networking. You guys can tell me what it is that you're having difficulty in, which exam. I'll do a live Zoom with whoever wants to join. Whenever you join Technology Tap Premium, I'll send you a link. We can do a Zoom link. We can do a Zoom session, and we'll just do questions. And then whatever difficulty that you're having on the exam, hopefully me and the rest of the community could help you get over that hump. So if you're having difficulty passing any of the trifectors, just join Technology Tap Premium and we'll network and push you. Or if you're trying to get a job or you want pointers on resumes, let's make this community bigger and help each other pass, the CompTIA, because this works, ladies and gentlemen. Getting your CompTIA exams work. It's you'll be able to get a job for the most part, a job once you have a couple of these certs. Now, are you going to make a job that's paying you $1 million? No, of course not. Are you going to get 6-figure salary with no experience? Absolutely not. But there's people, let me not say absolutely not. Most likely not. But there's people who have done it. And I've seen people who have a huge mediocre rise in jobs because they've taken some of these exams and, stuff that they've done in their personal life. If you're former military, former police, they tend to grab you quickly, especially in the security field, if you have that under your belt. So again, Technology Tap Premium, it's $5 a month. Sign up. I'm doing a contest June 1st. I'm giving out a voucher, whichever exam you want, either A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. But in order to win the voucher, you have to be a subscriber of Technology Tap Premium for 3 months. So, and then you are eligible to win the voucher. It could be like a $300 and something savings on your part, right? So sign up for Technology Tap Premium, so that way, I think you gotta, for the first one, it has to be by April 1st. So, and then you'll be, I think, April, May, June. So they have to charge you 3 times, basically. and then you're eligible for the voucher, which I will give it out June 1st. So, all right, enough of housekeeping. Let's do the cloud. All right, first question. An organization suffers a critical failure of its primary data center and made the decision to switch to the DR site. DR stands for Disaster Recovery Site. After 1 week of using the backup site, the primary data center is now ready to resume operations. Which of the following is the most efficient way to bring the block storage in the primary data center up to date with the backup site? A. Set up replication. B. Copy the data across both sites. C. Restore increment backup. D. Restore full backup. I'll read it again. An organization suffered a critical failure of its primary data center and made the decision to switch to the disaster recovery site. After 1 week of using the backup site, the primary data center is now ready to resume operations. Which of the following is the most efficient way to bring the block storage in the primary data center up to date with the backup site? So the keyword here is most efficient. Here are the choices: set up replication, copy the data across both sites, restore increment backup, and restore full backup. What do you think the answer is, ladies and gentlemen? I'll give you a couple of seconds, and the answer is A, set up replication. A. Remember, most efficient way. That's the key, right? That's the key phrase. And a lot of these, cannot emphasize, a lot of these exams have the clue in the question. So always remember that. All right, next, a cloud administrator is building a new VM for machine learning training. The developer requesting the VM has stated that the machine will need a full GPU dedicated to it. Which of the following configuration options will best meet this requirement? A, virtual GPU. B, external GPU. C, pass-through GPU. And D, shared GPU. I'll read it again. A cloud administrator is building a new VM for machine learning training. The developer requesting the VM has stated that the machine will need a full GPU dedicated to it. Which of the following configuration option will best meet this requirement? A, virtual GPU. B, external GPU. C, pass-through GPU. And D, shared GPU. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. And the answer is C, pass-through GPU. So pass-through GPU is used when one or more GPUs are dedicated to a single VM. Pass-through allows the VMs to address the GPU directly without having to go through the hypervisor stack. This improves the performance for the application, and pass-through is used for very GPU-intensive workloads, such as deep learning, artificial intelligence, and data analytics. So that's your answer, and that's the answer why. All right, next question is, which of the following service models can be used for database in the cloud? A, PaaS, B, IaaS, C, CaaS, or D, SaaS? Which of the following service models can be used for database in the cloud? A, PaaS, B, IaaS, C, CaaS, D, SaaS. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. And the answer is, of course, this is a little bit of an easy one, right? The answer is A, PaaS, right? PaaS, right? So there's no need to explain that one. That's a little bit easy. Next, a chief information security officer is evaluating the company's security management. The CISO needs to locate all the assets with identified deviations and mitigation measures. Which of the following would help the CISO with these requirements? A, an SLA document. B, a disaster recovery plan. C, SOC procedures. D, a risk register. I'll read it again. A chief information security officer is evaluating the company's security management program. The CISO needs to locate all the assets with identified deviations and mitigation measures. Which of the following would help the CISO with the requirements? A, SLA document, that's service level agreement. B, disaster recovery plan. C, SOC procedures. And D, risk register. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. And the answer is D. Risk register will outline all the assets with identified deviations and then mitigation measures. It also outlines the risk, the impacts, the likelihood. SOC procedures is poorly worded, doesn't clarify whatever this is for your actual SOC documents or procedures, or if this is related to SOC reports. That's why SOC procedures is not the answer. So the answer is D, a risk register. All right, we got two more. A cloud administrator is reviewing the authentication and authorization mechanism implemented with the cloud environment. Upon review, the administrator discovers the sales group is part of the finance group and the sales team can access financial applications. Single sign-on is also implemented, which makes access much easier. Which of the following access controls rules should be changed? A, discretionary based. B, attribute based. C, mandatory based. Or D, role based. I'll read it again. A cloud administrator is reviewing the authentication and authorization mechanism implemented within the cloud environment. Upon review, the administrator discovers the sales group is part of the financial group and the sales team members can access the financial application. So it seems like it's accessing it, but maybe they don't want them to. A single sign-on is also implemented, which makes access much easier. Which of the following access control rules should be changed? A, discretionary based. B, attribute based. C, mandatory based. Or D, role based. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. This one's not too difficult, and the answer is D. It's role based, right? It's the role based that they need to fix. All right, last one. Question number 6. Oh, by the way, you could follow along. Oh, I forgot to say this. You could follow along on my website, professorjrod.com. Look for the link where it says CompTIA Cloud Plus. Questions, I'll actually have it on the show notes so you can follow along. Makes it a lot easier. So I'll put it on the show notes. Last question. A company developed the product using a cloud provider's PaaS platform and many of the platform-based components within the application environments. Which of the following would the company most likely be concerned when utilizing a multi-cloud strategy or migrating to another cloud provider? A, licensing. B, authentication providers. C, service level agreement. Or D, vendor lock-in. I'll read it again. The company developed a product using a cloud provider's PaaS platform, PaaS, and many other platform-based platform-based components within the application environments. Which of the following would the company most likely be concerned about when utilizing a multi-cloud strategy, or migrating to another cloud provider? A, licensing. B, authentication providers. C, service level agreement. Or D, lock-in or vendor lock-in. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Which one do you think? Which one? And the answer is D, vendor lock-in. Company develop a product using the cloud provider's PaaS platform using proprietary tools to develop something in one cloud, then moving it to another cloud or multi-cloud strategy. Risk is a vendor lock-in. All right, those are the questions that we have for today. As far as uh, what are we doing? Cloud Plus. So again, if there's any, I say it once, I'll say it again. If there's anything that you want to go over, I know I had somebody ask me to go over scamming people who get scammed via interviews, right? Like they post fake job interviews on LinkedIn and Indeed, and they want to see. I'm not really. I've heard of that, but I'm not an expert on that subject. But if there's any topic on really CompTIA or working in an environment or resume or interviewing, if there's anything that you want me to, talk about, or, any particular topic in CompTIA that you're having difficulty in, maybe you can't get printers, or you can't get RAID, or you can't, you're having a little bit of an issue, let me know. Email me at professorjrod@gmail.com, and I will try my best to accommodate you and do an episode just for you. Yeah, the old-fashioned radio, ladies and gentlemen. I'm taking requests. So I'm also trying to get people who are in the computer business, recruiters, people who write resumes, people who do interviews to see what are they looking for, right? And does CompTIA really help? I think it does. I did an episode maybe a year ago about college degree inserts. You can look it up. Maybe almost 2 years ago, I think. And it had to do with a research that I did and which one is better, college degrees or certificates. Though people are looking for people with certificates, and specifically CompTIA because it's vendor neutral, so it has more weight. But they still want people with degrees. So unfortunately, if you don't have a degree, doesn't mean that you can't get a job. You can. Believe me, you can get a job. I know a lot of people who work in IT who do not have computer degrees. Actually, I know a lot of people who don't have computer degrees or certs, and they've been working in IT for a long, long time. Here's the difference. A lot of times, if you want to move up, the lack of college degree will come into play, right? Because if you're going for a manager promotion and somebody else is going for manager promotion and he has a degree and you don't, he's probably going to get it, because he has a degree. So with a degree, there's an expectations of things, and if you listen to the podcast, I was very surprised by the answers that I got from many people. Talk about like they'd like to have the person be more uh, more knowledge of the world instead of just PC. They don't, there's some people that they just don't want people who know PC. They think for chemistry reasons, it doesn't work in an office environment. So they want people more well-rounded. And there's an assumption that with a college degree, you will be more world-rounded. Is that true? I don't know. It's debatable, I think. Because it's a lot of people, and you've met people in college who sit in the corner and they don't communicate with anybody, and they don't want to, they just want to sit there by themselves, do their classes, and get up and leave, right? And then, they graduate, you don't even remember who they are. So, uh, you know, you don't want to be one of those people, right? You want to be the person who's actively involved. I've seen students who are more actively involved in the school where I teach. They're the ones who tend to get the really, really good jobs with an associates, right? With an associates. I have plenty of students who have gotten jobs with an associate's degree. One young lady in particular, so proud of her. She ended up getting a really, really good job, and she has a really great story about her background and the struggles that she had. But yeah, she got a really, really good job. So very proud of her. But she put a lot of work in it, and she did end up getting a couple of certs. So that ended up helping her. So at the end of the day, yes, degrees help, certs help. Like I said, I know a couple of people, a bunch of people who work in tech and don't have the college degree and don't have any certs. They make decent money. They make, I don't know, I think at this point they make maybe 80, 85 grand a year. I mean, they're a little older, so maybe for the age that they are, maybe they should be making more. But if they can pay the bills and pay their cars and pay the kids stuff, that's should be good enough. You don't need to make $1 million to be happy. So the one thing that I'll be concerned on that front is because they worked for a long time where they working at now. They still working. They worked there all over probably 25 years, I would say. That if they close shop and they lose their job, might be a little bit difficult for them to get another job with no degree, no certs. I mean, the experience will help, obviously, but I think the no degree, no certs will hurt them. Plus their age, right? Let's be honest. Ageism, is there. Discrimination against older people working. I've faced that in my 40s, right? I had a interview, and the lady didn't want to hire me. I mean, she framed it that I would, that it I wouldn't be a good fit because of the knowledge that I have. She said, you wouldn't be a good fit here. This is more entry level. You were more like management. But I kind of felt slighted because, there's some of the comments that she made about, the other people are young and I'm older, so I don't know. But yes, that's the other thing that you have to worry about, right? On top of everything else, there's organizations that will hire older people. That is true. So you don't really have to worry about that, but you have to be realistic if you switching jobs, right? Or switching careers, right? Depending on what your background was, it might be a little bit difficult for you to get hired. Again, if you were former military or former cop, they will snatch you up really, really quick. I've seen that. I actually have a student, and he's an older gentleman. He was former cop, retired, and he will get a job really quick, because they like that. There's companies that like that. So I don't have any doubt that he'll get a job really quick. But somebody who's older, who doesn't come from that background, uh, that might be a little bit of an issue. Not saying that you can't get a job, you can, but again, set your sights realistically, right? Set realistic sights, realistic goals, right? that's the way it really is. The life is tough out there, so we got to be careful. But this is why I want to create Technology Tap Premium. It's a place that we can get together and talk about these things, and you know try to help each other, and point it, each other in the right directions. Make sure that we all pass our certs and push each other and help each other on areas that we're stuck in as far as CompTIA is concerned, because this is really really going to help everyone. All right, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to Technology Tap Premium. Until next time. This has been a production of Little Chacha Productions. Art by Sarah, music by Joe Kim. If you want to email me, you can at professorjrod@gmail.com.